Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast with Wealth and Wellness Realtors. I am Ida Janali, and this is my amazing co-agent, Karma Dolkar. We are here with a very special guest today.
Hi, everyone, and we're actually so happy to have Cesar Garcia from the title company Nest Abstract. He will be talking to us today about the title process as well as why it's so important when selling your home. Welcome, Cesar.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And so are we, Cesar. So we would actually like to start talking a little bit about home process of a buyer purchasing, and the timing actually becomes very overwhelming. So we want to have a little bit of clarity on the process of where the title process starts during the purchasing of a home.
It's a good question. And this particular climate has actually changed. It used to be where title was not put into the transaction until there was either an accepted offer or a fully executed contract. Being now that, the laws have changed for the brokers, buyer representation and everything else like that, I've noticed that most of the buyer agents are asking for preliminary reports ahead of time because they want to make the transaction smoother, so they're getting in contact with the title company to find out either issues from the seller side and things of that nature, so they're more prepared, and it's another value add for the buyer at the end of the day.
Nice. Cesar, so we wanted to ask you, what common title issues do sellers face, and how do you help in with that situations that come up?
So if we do a preliminary title report, which is something that's going on now to try to avoid issues, a lot of them have issues of violations as open permits that they've done in the past. Certain places that have pools that have open pool permits. Sidewalk violations is a big one. It's really, things that people do and don't realize they either need a permit for or they haven't closed them because they don't have a relationship with contractors. Working with contractors is rather difficult. So there's a lot of things that are involved that owners are not aware of. So it comes back to haunt them later.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is actually very interesting. And what do you think are like the biggest and most important red flags when you're doing a title search?
So it is the open permits and the violations. Remember, the main job of the title company is to make sure there's no money owed and that there's nobody coming back to haunt you for it and say, hey, you either owe me the house or you owe me money. So that's the function. Our function is really to give out information first and foremost. And that's where the title company really does, its job. Now with preliminary reports, it's easier for an owner to see where they stand. And the biggest advice I give a lot of the homeowners is keep your policy. When you first bought the property, we did the exact same thing we're about to do for that buyer. The search, pointing out what's wrong with the property. So those things get solved for you, and then you get issued a homeowner's policy, which is that actual insurance. I tell everybody this from day one: hold it, put it in either a PDF, put it in a security box, because when it's time to sell, those objections or omits of the property may come back to haunt you, and you need that policy as proof that the other title company did their job and help you go through that and clear your title. So once I get that policy, I'm able to rely on that. And since we're underwritten by big companies, I can go back to the underwriter and say, hey, you omitted this back in 1999. Now we have to omit it back in this time unless you did something totally different from that omission.
Wow. So in addition to all of that, is there anything else that sellers can do to prepare ahead of time?
That's pretty much it. Either, you can hire somebody like me to do a search, like I said, the preliminary title, or you can, New York State gives you something called a FOIL, which is Freedom of Information, where they can ask for it once a year and they get that to their doorstep and they get to find out what's going on in the property. It's doing due diligence, of course. It'll take a time. That's the difference between me and going through the city, is that for me it'll probably take 5 days or 6 days depending what county you're at, and the city will probably take a month to 2 months to provide you that information. So if you guys are prepping homeowners to sell, this is the steps you would take, and this is how long you would need to try to put that property on the market.
Is FOIL an acronym?
Yes, the
What does it
freedom
stand
of
for?
freedom of information.
Of intervention?
Of information.
Of information.
Information.
Oh, okay.
And that's something that they can go to.
Yeah, so you can
The
go
county,
online. Yeah, you
or-
can go online.
Oh, you
Just
can
put
go-
in a FOIL test or
FOIL
FOIL
test.
information, and it'll
Nice.
give you the link of where you can go to get that information.
So you can actually fill it in.
Oh yeah, fill
and
it in. You
request-
put in your address. If you don't have a block and lot, you can talk to your professionals here, and you can get the block and lot for them, and they can get that, that information kit.
Correct. But also at the same time, if they were to do the work with you directly, you would also be able to explain to them all those violations, what they are.
Yeah, that's the difference. So with me, I get to sit down with you and go over the report, let you know what key areas might be issues. A lot of the issues are in Schedule Bs. It might look different for me than it does on the foil, but it's something that definitely will help you out with.
Correct. And also I feel that using the services that you provide, it will also help them to understand what they actually need to do next. What are the steps? Because I'm sure there's some violations that they're so minor, they will probably not affect the closing.
Some may not affect the closing. Some will. One of the biggest myths that come across is that title companies are deal killers. We're not here to kill a deal. Remember, all we do is report what we find.
Exactly.
So whatever happened that we can't solve was done already in the past. All I can do is say, hey, Mr. Attorney, this is the information, because that's the attorney's job, is to make sure that the buyer has a clean and clear title for the buyer. I think all of us want, to make sure that when we buy something, it's free and clear. It's just like going to buy a phone, right? You want to make sure that it has a warranty, that it works. And if it doesn't work, you're able to return it or get your money back. And that's what we kind of do. We insure it, we warranty it to make sure that, it's free and clear. A lot of the times, we help solve those issues, as an extra value to everybody is by, if there's an issue on the title, I may send you an expediter because I've dealt with that in the past, or I may send you a plumber because some things may require a plumber or an architect. So we're a wealth of information because we get to see the problems over and over. Just like you guys are selling properties over and over, you become a master of that art. I'm dealing with maybe 30 to 40 different transactions a month where I'm seeing different problems come to my desk all the time. So I get to see, hey, this is what solved last time. This way, maybe you can solve it again this way. If there's certain issues in certain ways, we may try it the same way. If it doesn't work, we try a different way. Because every transaction is very dynamic. No transaction is ever the same.
Yes, of course. And since you actually mentioned that, which is great, how would you handle liens on the property?
So there's liens that are monetary liens, and then there's liens that require monetary and for you to fix them, especially like open permits. Remember, the longer the permit is out there, the problem that everybody has is they think they can just close it out, and guess what? You might need to now jump into a different scenario where if it was legal in 1999, it's not legal in 2025.
Right.
So everything gets upgraded, everything gets changed. So now you may need to have a plumber or an electrician come back and keep it up to date to standards of 2025. So that's why it becomes difficult, and some people don't seem to understand that time changes.
Precisely.
Just a quick question, actually. Is there any situations that have come up during the title process that is very, like something that still sticks with you today that was very different? That you can look back into and say, wow, this happened.
Well, yeah, the biggest issues that I've encountered that, I get, disappointed because I try to solve them. I'm always been a very solutions-based person, is the fact that time is either time or money in this business, right? And that cures almost everything. If I had more time, you could probably solve some issues with satisfaction of mortgages to help close deals, or find paperwork as paperwork gets lost, and things like that are what really kills deals. And you don't have enough time because there's always a date on a contract, time or on or about in New York City, so that will kill your deals. There are certain situations like probate. If you don't do your due diligence beforehand and go through the probate process and have a trust attorney to go through it, you might think it's just easy and you can close in a month or 45 days. It's not. And then I have people who have to go way back, lose their buyer because it's actually going to take 6 months. So things like that are things that, I'm sorry, it's out of my control. It's more of a court issue than a title issue.
And just to add up on that, actually, has there ever been a situation where the buyers just accept the property, with open violations and liens?
Yes, there is. There's definitely that. It's something that, is called subject to. They sign over, affidavits saying they've been told about the situation, they've been told about the problem, that they want to continue, that the issues are theirs to deal with. So it is allowed, but it's scary to some buyers. You know, most of the time, people who take properties like that either seasoned, it's not their first time. They may own 2 or 3 properties. They're investors. They know how to deal with certain situations. So if you're brand new, first time homeowner, you really need to look at to see as what the issue is, and are you prepared to deal with it.
Correct. And since we talk actually about time-sensitive situations, and we understand that oftentimes buyers also have perhaps a locked rate, right? So they don't want to take too long with being able to go for the closing. Would you be able to tell us one example that it took the longest period of time to get it clear on the title?
Well, clearing title, like I said, is not that bad. The problem is the situation where, one, the title gets ordered too late. And I always recommend ordering title as soon as you sign a contract. It's part of having a relationship, especially with me. Since I was a broker, you know, and I understand what you guys go through, and I sold properties, and I know how the end user feels, the buyers and sellers. I've made it my mission to always order before commitment. It's something I do. And the reason why I do that is because you as the brokers have a relationship with either the buyer or the seller. Therefore, you guys can actually interact with them and help them go over those bumps, those hills, and try to solve issues. So when I order as soon as they sign contracts, it gives you that additional 30 days and perhaps a little bit more to solve the problems. So that's why I always say, hey, try to get that title in as soon as possible, because especially now, rates are higher, you know, getting more expensive to do extensions. So if you guys know ahead of time, and talking with the attorney, of course, you guys can get a head start to try to start solving issues.
Correct.
You know?
So one of the issues that I recently dealt with was a co-op sale, and unfortunately the homeowner had a different name on the stock certificate than the name that she carries right now. And it happened during also a divorce process where some documents had to be changed so she can get her maiden name, but unfortunately there was an error from the court side. And she had to deal with a little bit of frustration where she didn't know how to solve the situation effectively. So can you tell us a little bit, what is one of the best ways to deal with a situation like that? And what normally happens? What would the seller would have to do?
Yeah, so just so you guys know, this is just talking about based on experience. It's not legal advice for you guys, okay? But based out of experience, a lot of the times you can, you know, be into this divorce, go back to your attorney, your divorce attorney, and tell them, hey, my divorce decree came back erroneous, and have them try to fix your name, right? Or go to the Social Security office, show them your divorce decree, and try to have them change your name as well. Or show, you know, a chain, which is also very important in title, a chain of title. Show them that chain of where your name is, how they changed it, how they perhaps made the error, and how it is. And make sure you have a valid ID, of course. We always request a valid ID, especially to, you know, stop fraud from happening. So things like that are things that are necessary. So always backtrack. Who did the error? Go back to your attorney. There's always someone that can help you. And that's what insurance is for. In a situation like yours, perhaps an Eagle 9 will give that extra layer to the buyer to make sure that they feel safe, that nobody's going to come back. Remember, a co-op is just a stock certificate. It's not real property, but there is title insurance for it. It's called the Eagle 9. At the moment, I can't remember. That's for First American. I don't remember what Fidelity is. I know those are the 2 companies that do have such an insurance for co-ops. So it's something you can discuss with your attorney. Of course, it costs more money, but it gives you that extra layer of security.
Okay. Correct, and that's actually, I feel, what a buyer really needs. But it's also a good step for a seller to take, especially if they didn't start the process of fixing or resolving an issue ahead of time.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that we learned through the process where, like you said also earlier, if not doing a title search, at the very least, make sure that everything matches correctly. Even if the attorney doesn't mention it or the co-op board doesn't mention that it's an issue, you still have to do the due diligence and be able to start the process from much earlier, just so you can avoid those little bumps. And it's interesting, and thank you very much for providing information also for Eagle 9.
Yeah, there's a difference of working with a professional always. You know, like I said, we go through it all the time, and you're paying, you know, for the experience, the years of experience, and not just you. For you just met us, or you know, And for you, it might seem like a lot of money, but the money is worth it. It's mine, it's worth in gold for the experience you go through it.
Okay, exactly. Well, talking about money, what are the costs that are associated with this process, and who pays, the seller or the buyer?
So a lot of time is down here in the five boroughs is always the buyer. If you go to different counties in New York City, actually in upstate New York, it might be the seller. So you need to know in what county you're at. To see who pays, but for the most part, all of us are doing business down here, so it's the buyer. And the way it's broken down is if it's just a mortgage and the actual property, it gets by the down payment and the purchase price of the property. So you got those two fees. If it's just cash, it's just based on the actual purchase price, and it's regulated by New York City Department of Finance. So you can estimate maybe 2% just for that. People think insurance is very expensive, and it's not because we're charging a lot of money. Is that we're responsible for a lot of money at the table. And what I mean by that is we collect the mortgage tax. We collect the taxes for that, period. If it's Long Island, they have, the current September or November, depending where you're at or when they get paid. So we have to collect that and make sure that it's paid for the buyer. That way they start fresh, and then make sure that you come out of the property clean, paying everything that you need to pay. So that's why it looks like title is so expensive, because we have to take all that bulk of the money and then disperse it. But title insurance in itself is a certain percentage. And just for an example, $500,000 if you were to pay all cash is around $2,300, give or take. If it's with a mortgage, you're looking closer to $3,000 because you're also paying the bank side of the title insurance.
Okay.
This is all very insightful information that you have provided us. And if we could ask you one more thing, what is the information that a buyer has to present to the title company when they start the process?
Just the contract. We just need the contract. At that point, if there's any situations that we foresee or get, let's say there's a lot of parking tickets or something that's new, and you guys just reminded me of that. It is the biggest joke in our business. Some people owe thousands of dollars in parking tickets, especially with the traffic cameras. Or you have kids, they take your car, you don't know, they rip up tickets. It comes back to haunt you as well. Yes. So we're responsible for also paying that. If you don't want us to pay it, you need to pay in advance. But pretty much your contract, if there's things that show up, your attorney will probably write us a letter saying that it's not you, because they get your social security numbers and things like that to identify you. So those are the things that we need, to help keep this moving forward and clearing your title.
Thank you, Cesar. So from what we understand, it's important, even as a seller, to be able to do your due diligence. That means you can actually start the process by getting a title company like Cesar to do a run of everything about your property. This way you can get ahead of the game, and before you actually put your house on the market, or while you are putting your house on the market, you can actually see what issues there may be in order for you to be able to follow through. Or even from a buyer side, the earlier that you start, the better it will be. This way there will be no delays. If somebody wants to reach you.
Sure, they can reach me. My number is 646-236-3723, or Cesar, CESAR, at NestAbstract.com. And if you're playing around with my website, those numbers that I told you about, you can plug them in, see what it might cost you. If you want a more accurate, detailed information, you can reach out to me, and I'll send you closing costs and help these ladies, put out some numbers for you, because it's very important in today's world to know what your mortgage will be like, what your closing costs could be like. And remember, everything is very estimated, because we don't know at the end of the day what the actual figures are, because the banks don't tend to give us information until 2 or 3 days before closing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Cesar, for joining us. It's a pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you all for joining us here. Please like, subscribe, and share. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Take care, and we'll see you again next time. We were Wealth and Wellness Realtors, and we were here today with Cesar.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you.
Did you already